Right, check it out. That's a little preview from the new movie coming out this week. But most of us haven't had a sex ed class since high school. So here to give us a little refresher is Minneapolis author and self-proclaimed fairy godmother, Terre Thomas is here with us. Hello, Terre.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Okay, she gave me the magic wand. So I got to ask you, what's the deal with the fairy godmother thing?
Well, about 15 years ago, one of the things I realized my calling in life was to help people with their most important wish, which is everyone's greatest wish is to be their best self, their truest self, as much and as often as they can be.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So about 6 years ago, I opened a shop in an online store called Fairy Godmother, and I filled it with things that are for inspiration, encouragement, and fun. One of the departments in the fun category, it was the Restore the Tingle department for women of a certain age. And so it was filled with erotica and erotic accessories. After a couple of years, what I realized is most women my age, there wasn't a lot of information out there that's geared towards grown-ups.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the sex materials out there are geared towards young people. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, and the other piece is that most people got their education about sensual pleasure. Their sex ed was really about anatomy.
Absolutely.
Sensual pleasure, most of us informally learned by watching TV and movies, which isn't always the most accurate. And as we age and have different stages of our life, there are different things that are important. And so, as a fairy godmother, what I did is I go through and I found the best resources, stuff that's well written, makes sense. And I also believe when it comes to sensual pleasure, most people, no matter what your age, like to learn things in little kiss-sized bits.
Okay.
And everyone has gaps in their knowledge.
Okay.
It's just inevitable.
So you brought some great resources that you kind of waded through for women in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yes,
so let's start with, what should every girl that's in their 20s have?
Okay, you use the magic wand and point it for me.
Right there. A subscription to Cosmo.
A subscription to Cosmopolitan. 30 years ago, when I was in my 20s, Cosmo was mostly about how to get a man. Now, every issue of Cosmopolitan is filled with articles that are really practical about sensual pleasure for both partners.
Okay.
So that's what, if I was in my 20s, that's what I'd be reading.
That's what you would go for. Well, you're not much above your 20s, ladies, so don't worry about that. Okay. So getting into your 30s, you've got a couple things. Wand.
The first one is that when you get into your 30s, one of the many women in their 30s are raising young families. And these gals wrote a book called Sexy Mamas, How to Keep Your Sex Life Alive While Raising Kids. And pieces of what I love about this book is it talks about, what they say is your sex life doesn't disappear when you have a young family. It just gets buried under laundry and carpool schedules.
You're exhausted.
And you're exhausted.
Exhausted, yes.
They talk about, in this book especially, practical things about your hormone changes after you have a baby, sleep deprivation, and probably the #1 issue that couples experience or name as a problem is desire discrepancy. One person wants to do it more often than the other.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean either one of them is off. It just means that you have to figure out the desire discrepancy ways of keeping that part intact in your life.
That's great.
The next one is that if you have been with a certain partner for 10 years, 20 years, you'll have been doing this for an awful long time. It's an awful lot like brushing your teeth. And
can get a little monotonous.
That's right. Yep. And it's a lot like brushing your teeth. The Nice Girl's Guide to Naughty Sex has hundreds of great ideas of new ways to inject some fun.
And I feel like if you bring that home and put that on your nightstand, your husband is going to be like, I like where we're going with this.
That's exactly right.
That's what he's going to say. Okay, what about if you're in your 40s? This book is Love Your Sex Life?
It's the Red Book's Love Your Sex Life. It's also written by the same gal who wrote the Nice Girls to Naughty Sex book. And she basically says that there's 1,001 things that you have to do, and sensual pleasure needs to be at least in the top 10 of that list. So make time, and it's very practical.
Change your priorities a little bit.
Change your priorities and make space for that in your life.
Absolutely. Okay, so you get into your 50s. I kind of like this title. I think it's pretty funny.
Well, thank you. I wrote this book. This is the 5 things every woman of a certain age should have under her bed. Most women, by the time we hit this certain age, know that the truism that really, for most basics, you just need 5 good things, whether it's your outfit, your makeup, your shoe groups. So I thought, well, what about erotic accessories and erotica? How are you going to know what the best 5 things are? Well, because I'm a fairy godmother and I spend a lot of time thinking about it, I'm like, well, I know, and I can write a book about it.
That is interesting. Okay, and now we got to ask, because for the 60s and beyond, and really a lot of people, and I think the conception in life is that once you're past a certain age, you're not doing the hanky-panky anymore.
Well, whether you're doing the hanky-panky with someone that part of your body is an important, it's like good, it's for your wellness and it's good physical health. So you need to keep all the juices flowing and you need to keep that tingle going, and your desire doesn't disappear once you hit 60.
Okay.
And Joan Price has written a great book, and the title of it's perfect, Better Than I Ever Expected, Straight Talk About Sex After 60.
Oh, Terry, this is fascinating. Thank you so much. I think these are great resources.
You're welcome.
And I know Terry's doing some workshops. You have all sorts of stuff going on.
I have a Restore the Tingle workshop and party that we do once a month over in Northeast Minneapolis at I Like You, the gift shop.
Okay.
And I have on my online store, I also have a blog. So if people have questions, they can write into the blog and I'll answer the questions. You can submit your questions anonymously, and even if you blush, I can answer
You'll
for you.
answer them. I love this. This is great. And we'll put links to all that information on our website. So we've got more sex education resources, as we mentioned. Go to KSTP.com. Click on Twin Cities Live. We'll get that all there for you. Thank you very much, Terry. Okay, coming up, get free food, free dance lessons, and watch